Riders. Yay! So we're happy because last year there was one queer woman and now there are two. So maybe next year there will be three.
More!
So, pero sana pwede geometric progression, di ba? Pwede naman sana. Pero yun yung, yesterday we were mentioning na the lesbian or the queer women writers haven't been writing as much or haven't been publishing as much. Maybe we're writing but not publishing as much as the gay men. And there's really so much to catch up on. So nice. Her book came out in 1993. And my book came out in 2010, and it's been it's almost 10 years. There's another one, Kate Pedroso, who self-published her stories, and that's about it. And there's the other anthologies. There's Jeannie Villar, you met her yesterday, and Ida Santos published pair duo anthology called Woman to Woman. And there's Shakira Season and Ian Casopon, the duo anthology, the gay and lesbian book. What's it called again? Sorry. Don't Tell Anyone. Don't Tell Anyone. Which came out 2 years ago, I think. So that's about it. Shane poetry. So sa poetry. So sa fiction or sa prose works, parang yun na yun. And so, parang sa women's writing, when you think of the canon, the old canon, so sa feminist criticism, we have the guy of critics who had to unearth, so there's a stage of feminist scholarship that had to do with unearthing the works. And it is not because the women were not writing, it is because they were muted. So I think it's a similar experience for queer women, because essentially we are, well, no, sorry, don't use the word essentially. But it's because we are women, part of the experience of the writer is really the muting, I think. That's what I suspect, that there's a silencing. So when I issued a call for Tingle in 2016, I was surprised that even the ones that I had expected to submit didn't submit. And part of the problem really was that a lot of them, we used to be lesbian writers, or we used to identify as lesbians, had evolved into something else, and because it was so slow. And so we lost some of them, so the ones that is so-called usual suspects, we lost some of them to maybe the evolution of their sexualities, or to just, I don't know, not writing anymore. Because pag tumanda na, most of our work, they come out when we're young. So exciting ang energy talaga ng writers' workshops, especially because this is really, most of the fellows are really young, and they're doing a lot of their writing. So napakahalaga, I think, para sa isang workshop to encourage the writing. And so we hope that that kind of energy is what's fostered in this particular writing workshop, because kailangan natin encourage ating queer folk, para to keep doing what we're doing. It's not easy. It's really not easy. So today we want to celebrate the work of Reggie Vejia, and we have two stories: Death for Serafina and Here Come the Women. So when I was looking at this, at these two portfolios, they're similar because they're about older women. So parang iba yung energy niya. Yung kahapon, tinatanong natin si Joseph na confessional, yung mga work niya. Pero yung parang nakikita natin dito sa drafts ni Reggie na meron siyang sinasadya niya na hindi isulat yung sarili niya. Parang gano'n. So, pwede natin explore. Tanong natin si Reggie mamaya kung ba, ano ano yung motivation, no, para isulat yung characters na sadyang hindi siya. So, older women, ang characters niya. And the other thing that I thought was interesting to note was that the main characters were dealing with the deaths of their husbands. So that's another thing there. Although one of them is frankly more directly or explicitly lesbian than the other. So I think one of the questions I'd like you to think about really is that what makes a story a lesbian story? So because that's the situation that's presented to us by these two directs. All right. So with that, can we ask the fellows? What did you think? Yes.
Magre-react muna ako dun sa comment mo dun about the call for subs. Kasi I have several lesbian friends who badgered literally to submit.
Was this in the 2016 or 2019?
This one.
This current one. Oh, this is a current content din.
Tapos meron silang willfulness to, or rather, this anger. I do not want to be subjected to the criticism of the institution. Di man lang the patriarchy, the institution. Parang, they're not interested in my work.
Was it referring to me in particular?
Siyempre, di naman nila alam na ikaw yung screener or anything. Pero, they're just saying that I don't want to be subjected to the criticism of the colleague. Tapos, this includes people who self-publish, like Reggie self-publishes. There are a lot of queer women who self-publish, and meron silang anger against the institution.
Wow.
It's a term, anger. When I ask them if they want to submit, it's talagang rejection yung initial reaction nila sa concept of a workshop. Tapos, anyway, about Reggie's work.
But that's also something I guess to think about. I mean, choice naman yan eh. I mean, hindi naman talaga.
And the submission has always been more gay men than other sexualities and genders.
Why?
It's the same reality that made that several editions of the Dead possible. So there are so many more gay men, I think, who are emboldened to come out and write and be identified as such, because that's the requirement of this workshop, LGBTQ. Actually, we didn't require any thematic anything from you. You could well have submitted everything about Marian apparitions or what, tree frogs or whatever, and that wouldn't have. The idea is to expand what LGBT writing can be, and it means it can be anything. It can be about anything, because what is LGBTQ is perspective, not topic, not theme, not subject matter. So. I wonder why that is so. I think it's because women are still probably subjected to harsher judgment than men when it comes to sort of talking about very personal things. I think the standard is, the issue isn't so much that it's sexuality, it's that it's personal. Why do you talk about that? Men can actually turn the personal public more easily than women can. Because I think the idea of women being keeper of secrets, being the repository of sort of personal knowledge, that's a stronger, more inviolable institution than men, than the institution of men keeping knowledge. So that's just my take. I'm not sure.
So yun nga, yung I did mention that essentially, it's because we're women. So regardless of the kind of subversion that we're doing to the patriarchal standards, we're still women, and part of the experience.
On the other hand, the other way to look at the reverse of that is that women are already men have a stronger right, gay men, and that women Kind of thinking of my own lesbian sister, who's being...
Your sister's lesbian?
Yeah.
My
But she
sister's
had
lesbian too.
she had no issues, unlike me, existential angst, spiritual crisis. Siya wala. Straight from being tomboy girl, having a lot of girlfriends, to turning those girlfriends into romantic relationships. Walang continuity, seamless siya. Oo.
Seamless?
Seamless, yes. Didn't need to come out. Didn't need to nothing was done. Ako yung medyo may one-on-one with my mom, may mga ganun, siya wala. I have a feeling, on one hand, so the other hand is that the oppression is stronger or greater for women. On the other hand, the leeway also and the allowance for not to talk about it but simply to be it is probably also greater for women too. Which is why the need to actually air your grievance is less because the grievance is less. I'm not sure. I'm talking to my sister. Wala ko siya problema.
Is she femme or butch?
Butch. Butch, yeah. We have a military dad. Oh, di ba?
Kaya gusto ng tatay mo yun kasi butch siya. Lalaki.
Siguro, probably.
Kasi I think, pag may hierarchy tayo sa female society, mas mas lamang pa rin yung mga babae, no? Kasi lalaki pa rin sila kahit paano. Saka yung butch naman, hayaan yung ng patriarchy kasi sila ang pininimik kasi. Ang mahirap yung mga lesbiana na maganda tulad mo. Di ba yung babae, pero gusto ng kapwa babae, yun ang hindi matanggap. Yun ang hindi matanggap ng patriarchy.
It's nice we're talking about this. It's our first properly lesbian manuscript, right? Because we had a bit of a lesbian thing with Chofusa, but that was sort of like
kicked down.
Make being lesbian. This is the first properly lesbian session, diba? So we need to talk about these bigger issues before we get to the manuscript.
So tomorrow hindi na siguro masyado, much more intense. But I think we really need to articulate.
And also because Reggie's work is also myth-making or engaging with mythology. It is the ultimate flattery for any artist for his or her works to become the basis of fan fiction. Reggie's Here Come the Women is fan fiction that rips off or picks up from Summer Solstice by Tolkien, which has already achieved the mythic status, I would say. That is the ambition of all great stories. All stories, the best stories turn into myth. And that one is myth. No? And this is Reggie's sort of mythopia, no? Which is the remaking of the myth, or the continuation of the myth. So I think we can focus on the manuscript now, because probably we'll keep talking about these issues anyway as we get along.
Luna wanted to say something.
I just blend what I had, but I wanted to share yung silence, yung mga boses ng mga lesbian. Ang nanay ko, nitong taon ito, ay nag-submit sa liwayway ng isang nobela yung may lesbian ka. At protagonist siya din sa pangyayari. Saka, ang gusto ko nahagi doon ay nakagugulat na at the age of 76, nasulat ng nanay ko, nasabing paksa. Yung lesbiana doon ay inabuso ng isang malayong panglaan. Napilitan siya ng mag-isang bakay at yun, hanapin ang kanyang sarili. So, isang balakid o isang obstacle kung bakit hindi sila masyado nagsusulat. Bukod dun sa mas malaki ang paghahatol ng bituin sa kanila. Pag-domesticated ng babae, ang dami niya kailangan gawin bago niya isulat yun. May parang ubos yung oras. Magdidilig pa ng halaman, magtatanong sa ganyan, o magluluto, alagaan si ganyan, si ganyan. So, hindi ko yung writing kasi nagiging secondary siya. Pero yung pagtanggap, kung lesbian sila o hindi, ano na yun, natural na bahagi na ng kanilang pagkatao. Sa big deal, maraming, hindi dahil nagkukubli sila kundi sa may mga mas mataas na concerns na dapat nilang kalalaman. Kesa yung pagpiit ng kanilang sexualidad. That's what I think. yung na-observahan ko, hindi lang sa circle ng academia, hindi, I've also worked with mga emerging women playwrights, yung formula before. Hindi naman mga writer yung nag-aral ng mga pagsulit in writing. Mga ano sila yung
Natural
sa mga
writers.
lugar nila, asawa, mga ganun na gusto nila isulat kung experience nila.
I think being a writer is an exception already. I mean, the norm is in our culture. Well, first of all, it's not a very bookish culture. Not everyone, the average Filipino family will not really buy books. Only books that are required by their children in school. No? So they'd rather buy food and other things. No? So being a writer is always, I think, an exception. And choosing that vocation is even more of an exception. So that's the rule. But then so many gay men are doing it. I think because the gay men probably receive more institutional incentive or support, or there's more encouragement for them to do it.
There's that too. Pero I think also that's a good point to make, no, na parang hindi priority yung pagsusulat para sa babae. I mean, even for myself, parang hintay mo talaga na nagawa mo na lahat ng kailangan gawin bago, medyo change of paradigm talaga yun. Uunahin yung pagsusulat bago ang ibang mga bagay.
Kasi hanggang pa rin na pagiging nakasalita, which is tough.